students, welcome back with another video where we'll be dealing with the sexual reproduction in flowering plant. Okay, after watching this video you will be having no doubt in this part. Okay, I make that sure. Alright, and this is a power-packed video where we will be completing the whole part of the sexual reproduction in flowering plant in one go. Okay, so let's start the video. See, first of all, let us come to the part of the flower. Okay, you see out here there are the 4 holes. Okay, 4 holes. What are holes? Alright, what are holes means? Holes means it is a kind of layer. Okay, we are naming the flower in a layer. 1 hole, 2 hole, 3 hole, and the 4th hole. Okay, what is this actually? Okay, I'll be explaining you that now. This is 1, alright, this is 2, this is 3, and this one is 4. Alright, now you see out here the first is calyx, isn't it? Calyx or sepals. This is a first hole of a flower. Okay, the first hole which I have drawn, the outermost layer is the calyx. This is first part of the flower. Okay, now coming to next part. Okay, you see if this is a flower, what is the first hole? That is the bottommost part. Okay, second layer is petals. Okay, it comes under second hole. Okay, you see the petals or corolla is the second hole. This is number 2. Alright, and now what is the third hole? Okay, third hole is this part, the anther and filament part. Okay, what is anther and filament? Now this is known as the male reproductive part of a flower. Why? Because the anther contains pollen grain. You see out here I have drawn some kind of dotted thing. Okay, these are nothing but pollen grain. Okay, what are pollen grain? They are the yellow colored dust. Okay, in the flower. Alright, see, these pollen grain is nothing but this is a male gamete. Okay, the male gamete which is responsible for the process of fertilization. Okay, and this part, you see, this is the filament and the upper part is the anther. They both make a stamen. Okay, anther and filament can be collectively called stamen. Alright, they can be collectively called stamen. Okay, and the third hole of the flower is also known as Androecium. Okay, the male part of the flower is also known as Androecium. Okay, and the 4th hole now. Okay, 4th hole is the female part. This blue line which you are seeing is the 4th hole. Okay, you see this is stigma. The upper part is stigma. Okay, the middle part. Okay, this is style, and the lower bulged part, okay, that is ovary. Okay, the flattened part is stigma and the tube-like structure is style, and the lower flattened part is ovary. Okay, now what does this ovary contains? Okay, ovary contains ovules. What are ovules? Ovules are the part of the female reproductive organ which contains egg. Okay, inside the ovule there is a egg. Okay, and the female part, okay, stigma, style, and ovary, they all make a pistil. Okay, they all make a pistil, and this can also be collectively called gynoecium. Okay, gynoecium consists of the 4th hole, that is the middle part. Now one more time let us see. Okay, you see the circle, you see the outermost layer of circle is calyx. Okay, and the second part of the circle is the petals, beautiful petals, and the third part of the circle is the male part, that is filament and anther, and the 4th part of the circle is the female part, that is gynoecium or pistil, which consists of stigma, style, ovary. Okay, the female part consists of stigma, style, ovary. The male part consists of anther, filament. Okay, now this part is clear. Now coming to pollination. What is pollination? Okay, the transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma of a flower is known as pollination. Okay, we studied this is stigma, this flattened part is stigma. Okay, and the dust which are present in the anther is known as pollen grains. Okay, now you see the dust in the anther will be transferred to stigma of the flower. This is known as pollination. Okay, and now again there are two type of pollination, that is self pollination and cross pollination. Okay, these are the example of self pollination. All right, again the self pollination is divided into two types, that is autogamy and another is getinogamy. Okay, these are the self pollination. Okay, this is self pollination and this one is the picture of cross pollination. Now let us see what is the two type of self pollination. Okay, when the pollen grain is transferred from anther to stigma of the same flower. Okay, from this flower only the pollen grain is transferred to this flower itself. Okay, this is autogamy. Okay, and what is getinogamy is when the pollen grain from another flower, okay, is transferred to the stigma of a stigma of the flower of a same plant. Okay, here what is happening? The flower is two different flower but of the same plant. Okay, this is getinogamy. You see that there is the tree is same but the flower are two different. This arrow with the red line, this one, this is getinogamy, and here from here to here this is autogamy. Okay, when the pollen grain is transferred from anther to stigma of the same flower. Okay, and that is autogamy, and when the pollen grain is transferred from anther to stigma of the different flower but of the same plant, that is known as getinogamy. Okay, now coming to the cross pollination. What is cross pollination? Cross pollination is the transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma of another flower of another plant. Okay, but that should be of same species. That means if this is hibiscus, okay, these also should be hibiscus, then only there will be the pollination possible. Okay, now you see this is cross pollination because the pollen grain from this flower is transferred to the stigma of this flower. This is the example of cross pollination, and these two are the example of self pollination, and this is the example of autogamy, and this is the example of getinogamy. Okay, and now coming to the another process, that is fertilization. Now what is fertilization? Okay, see, I have drawn only the stigma part. Okay, only this part is brought out here. Okay, this part. Okay, now you see the male gamete. The male gamete has fall, that is the pollen grain has sticked on the stigma. Okay, now one question I want to ask you is, why does pollen grain they stick on the stigma? Okay, because stigma is sticky. Okay, so that the pollen grain can easily stick on it. Okay, see, the pollen grain is sticky. Okay, how does the pollen grain come to the stigma now? Another thing, another question that I am asking you. Okay, the honeybee, okay, that sits on the flower, the wind, okay, those all things, they bring the pollen grain from one flower to another flower. Okay, now coming to the fertilization part. Okay, what happens out here is the pollen grain, okay, it sits on the stigma. Okay, the pollen grain, it sits on the stigma, and as soon as it stays out here, okay, there is a germination of a tube known as pollen tube. Okay, from the pollen tube, these pollen grain contain male nucleus. Okay, the male nucleus from the pollen tube, it goes and goes and goes, and see, it has reached out here. Okay, and it is dividing into two. Okay, that is not of your concern. You just take the male nuclei from the pollen grain will descends down from the pollen tube, and it will go and fuse with the egg cell. Okay, there is this red color cell is a egg cell, and when the male gamete fuse with the female egg, then what happens? Fertilization will occur. Okay, and there will be the formation of zygote. Okay, so whenever you are told to make the diagram of fertilization, okay, then you are told to what happened during fertilization, you will be bringing this picture on your mind. First, what happens? The pollen grain sits on the stigma. Okay, first point. Second point, there will be the germination of pollen tube. Okay, and from the pollen tube, the male nuclei, it goes inside the ovule and Fourth is it will fuse with the egg. Okay, then the zygote is formed, isn't it? And then these zygote, what will it turn to? The zygote will be turning to embryo. Okay, I hope this thing is clear to you. If you like my video, please to hit like and subscribe my channel. Thank you.